I feel like there's a lot that we have to come
You
back
gotta let
to.
swoon. You gotta let swoon.
Vinicius.
I'm just trying to build it up a little bit more. Let him go crazy a little bit more. Okay, so Vinicius, obviously part of the triple sub, enters with Rodrigo for Bale, Hazard, and Isco comes out for Asensio, which you already discussed. Let's talk about the wingers. Lots of praise for Vinicius in the post game from Ancelotti. Lots of praise from me and Matt. Not so much. Didn't really like Vinicius' performance for some reason. I'm not sure why, but just awesome. He looks confident, and like he's always had defensive work rate down. He's had tracking down. He's had line breaking down. Really, the missing piece was just finishing. If he gets that down, he's going to be a monster. He's going to be ridiculous. The first 2 games, he scored 3 goals, obviously, in some like 40 minutes or so. I firmly believe that his second goal was intentional. When I saw the ball go into the net on that play, my jaw dropped because I thought it went out of bounds. I just took my eyes off the screen to take some notes, and then I just heard celebration. I'm like, hold on, what? That went in? And I really didn't think he was going to score from that angle. You look at the replay, it's 100% intentional. He's not trying to cross that to the far post. He's trying to shoot that. And obviously the composure, receiving the brilliant Casemiro pass, which resembles Rui Costa's peak, splitting through passes from deep. An awesome Vinny performance. This is a second awesome game in a row to start the season. Go ahead. Do we need to do?
This is why Vinicius Jr. is better than Kylian Mbappe. No, but this is why. And look, I'm not going to act like this is just me being completely vindicated, right? There's still so much football to go, but this resembles like, the kind of end point of my argument, which is that the reason you have patience with Vinicius is because he only needs to get a couple of things. You're not talking about having to build an entire player like with Asensio, right? Like we're left wondering, like, okay, he has one strength. Does he have like more than one? Like, does he have multiple? Vinicius, you said it, Kian, like he has multiple things, right? And the entire outlook on him as a player changes if you just add one. And it's not a sure thing, but I think when it's that close, you bet on that one thing being added because the upside is so huge. And this is what the upside can look like. Not him, being a goal per game player, but being someone who can, I think, raise the offensive ceiling of his team quite significantly. And I don't think that's reactionary to say, because it's been an argument I've been making all along, right? And this is just like maybe one of the first few times we're seeing actual evidence of that, of what the ceiling can look like with him, right? Now, what would be reactionary is to say that the composure is there now, right? Like now every single game, he's going to be confident, he's going to be decisive. You don't have the sample size for that. But I think we've seen more than enough now to be able to say, if he does put it together, the ceiling for our offense up so much, right? Because we're like, where are the goals going to come from? Who is going to step up? When you look at Vinicius' XG numbers, when you look about his movement, his ability to create off the dribble, and when he puts the finishing together, goals can come from there. Like a lot of goals can come from there. And that, if we add like 5-10 more or something, right? Like that's a lot. That could make a significant difference in a league title race where, Lionel Messi has gone from Barca and Atletico Madrid's offense is not going to be anything insane, right? Like just the pace he had to get to that Casemiro pass. I mean, it was a fantastic pass, right? In my opinion, it's the best pass Casemiro has ever played, definitely at Real Madrid. And
I can't. Are you like, how much certainty can you say that with? I can't even. How do you even remember every Casemiro pass ever?
I mean, look, it was Toni Kroos. I wouldn't say with such certainty, but if you can find a Casemiro pass that's better than, then go ahead, right? Go ahead, and I'll go and apologize in the next podcast.
But I'm going to spend 0 minutes trying to find out.
Casemiro fanboys who are listening, right? Here's your chance. You can get one over me here. But it was an insane pass, right? And it was very difficult as well. But it went slightly to the left, which is I'm not going to say that was on Casemiro, right? Like he did what he needed to do, and from there it's on the attacker to get what he needed to do. But Vinicius just has this tiny, like, just change of pace, right? Like, he goes even faster so that he can continue in a straight line with the ball. Otherwise, like, if he didn't get there right, his momentum and direction completely changes and he can't continue the straight beeline to go. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but like, if people go back and watch that, he has this little change to the left where somehow he finds an extra gear. He turns on the afterburners.
It drags him away from the defender.
And he's a generational athlete that way. And he just keeps going. And I almost think, oh man, I was like, maybe he took 1-2 too many touches when he takes that final touch to close the angle. But the important thing was he had the finish decided in his mind, right? He was like, I'm going to go take it to the outside to my left foot. I'm going to slide it past the keeper. He did not change, right? And he did it in just the amount of touches that he needed to do. And this could be complete coincidence, right? I could be completely biased here. I'm just letting this all out. But I think what Ancelotti said about the 1-2 touch, you can see it in these goals, especially the second one, because look, Vinicius, the old Vinicius, maybe crosses there. Maybe he tries to cut back inside and go for more dribbles to get a better angle because that was not a great angle. And to me, it just looked like as soon as Vinicius takes that touch before the final one, he's like, that's it, right? And when I'm in the box, 1-2 touches, make the shot. And just to me, when I see that touch, I just like, he's going to shoot. And then he takes the next touch and it's a shot. And somehow it goes in. But that's the thing, right? Like with Vinicius, it's like we talk so much like, how do we simplify things for him? How do we get his head right? And maybe it's just as simple as like, give him a clear goal that just takes all the bullshit away and let his talent take over. And he could just make stuff like that happen because he's that good, right? Like he has that kind of quality. And then he goes and he wins the red card, but like we could keep going on and on. Like when he puts it together, it's amazing to watch. And this is why when people talk about Rodrigo versus Vinicius' ceiling, and this is not to shit on Rodrigo because I think he had a good game, but this is because we were asked this question before. We all had different answers. I think I said Vinicius had the higher ceiling. To me, it's because of those physical qualities, right? Like that he's just being able to run faster than everyone else while being really good technically. Sometimes it's as simple as that. That makes you better than a lot of other players, right? It's part of Mbappe's game. It's part of Haaland's game. And when you add the finishing, suddenly Vinicius looks like this guy's going to be he can contribute so much. And that's why I'm so high on his ceiling. While I've always said I think Rodrigo is the better player at the moment and stuff like that. But man, like it's one of the best games you've ever had from him. He just came on super decisive. And that's what I like, right? The confidence was back. He's like, I'm going to do the things I'm going to do. And whatever happens, happens. And just how do we sustain that moving forward, right? I think it benefits him. He played against Levante. He came on against tired legs. And yet at the same time, the things he did were insane. Those were not easy goals. And you put a different player in that position, they're probably not scoring them because they don't have the pace to do what he did on the first one. They don't have the skill to do what he did on the second one. So amazing performance. I was gassed beyond belief because of that. And my emotions were all over the place because the Cardona news came in and our defense is falling apart. But yeah, I kind of went nuts for that one. So yeah, it was great. And you guys can I'll allow you to finally give your thoughts on Vinicius now.
Well, I think you go back to that the preseason round table, and we were asked like, where do goals come from outside Benzema? And we're all still skeptical that goals can really come from anywhere. But if Vinicius can sustain this, and that's the big question. If he can, it to your point, it completely revolutionizes our attack, completely changes projections of the amount of goals we can score and what he personally can contribute. And so that is exciting. Like you can't help but get a little bit excited after this. And I remember doing an article last year, I think it was, where I looked at all of Real Madrid's wingers, including those who are on loan. And so I looked at Kubo, Brahim, Vinicius, Rodrigo, Asensio, Lucas Vazquez, all of them, and just compared their stats and looked at it both from offensive, defensive contribution. And when you look at just his non-penalty XG numbers and his expected assist numbers, like Vinicius was off the charts compared to everyone else, like off the charts. And if he can, to your point, if he could just get that one piece right, that end product, which is what we've been talking about for years with him, then game over. Like it literally is game over. He becomes he just automatically becomes one of the best attackers in the world. Like I don't think it's that outrageous to say. Like he really does just lift everything. And so this is exciting. Like we don't want to hype everything up too much, but like exciting. And now we got to see, is his role going to continue to be this impact off the bench, running at a tired defense for the final 30 minutes? Is that his role, or can he replicate this in a starting role over 90 minutes? So let's see. That's the next step.
So brace yourselves. But currently Vinicius Jr., after 2 games in to the La Liga 2021-2022 season, is tied for Pichichi with 3 goals, along with Angel Correa, is exceeding his XG by 1.71. So let's hope that he can sustain this for another 40 games. And we're having a hell of a season. So I think it's almost impossible not to talk about this without talking about Hazard, or at least circling back to the discussion we had earlier about Hazard in this game, which I felt like it was a little bit, it was unfinished. And I think it was Matt who talked about like some of his touches and link up on the left side. I actually thought some of his touches were nice. And he even had a couple good interceptions in the first half where he just steps up at the right time. He had a shot from distance, which was tame, but at least he turned and he shot it from distance, and I was okay with that. I think like when you look at the difference between those two in the first 2 games, there is almost like, I feel like Vinicius is playing a little bit more free, a little bit more out of his head, with a little bit more like effortlessness without overthinking it. And Hazard is kind of the opposite. Like Hazard had that chance in the first half today, where he just like, he finds himself in a really good position in the box. And instead of just smacking with his left foot, he cuts back to his right, and it just kills the play. The defender catches up to him. And I think Vinicius in those shooting positions has just been a little bit more, he hasn't overthought it. He takes the right touches. He's playing freely. He's playing out of his head, and I like that. Now, I think we have to have a discussion about, like, based on pure merit, Vinicius has had the better season so far. And look, it's 2 games in, and actually Hazard had a good game last game, I thought, in a different way than we expect. And our perception was a little bit different than what the ESPN guys thought. We discussed in the post-game podcast. But Ancelotti did say something interesting today, because obviously he was asked about, like, should Vinicius just start? And he said a bunch of things like, look, we have a lot of wingers. People will start, people will not start. It's not a big deal, blah, blah, blah. Diplomatic answer. He did take a page out of the NBA book where, like, he talked about, like, doesn't matter who starts, it matters who finishes the game. And like, that's the classic, like, it doesn't matter who your starting 5 is, it matters who your crunch time 5 is. Obviously that's different because in NBA you can make unlimited subs and you can't do that in football. So, but I don't know if you guys wanted to, like, decipher that. Was that code for something? Is there a deeper message in that, where, like, Ancelotti feels that Vinicius is more of like a player that can come off the bench and just change the game? Do you think there's something in what he said there? Or would you, like, based on merit, would you start Vinicius at this point?
I don't know how much I'd read into it, because I think Ancelotti also said he might start Vinicius next game, but he's not sure. I think that's Ancelotti's clever way of just trying to say, guys, it's just a couple games. I can't really make the decision based off of this. Though, like, so I just think he's, like, throwing out basically the pros and cons, right? And just saying, well, I could start him, but, also Vinicius probably has some advantages running at a tired defense. I will say I agree with the idea that it doesn't necessarily matter who start games, but who finishes it, in the sense that it's really not the same, right? Usually you want your best player starting. But Ancelotti is willing to be this aggressive with substitutes, in the sense that he makes them extremely early. And Vinicius has 35 to 40 minutes to make his impact. I don't care as much, because there is a real advantage, even if it's a marginal one, of going up against teams that are slightly tired in a different game state where he might have more space. And he still has time to make an impact. And that's the thing, right? If we're talking about Vinicius coming on in the 81st minute, don't know how much you're getting from him. But if it's like this, where he really has the time to run at defenders, get in behind, make things happen, I don't hate it, right? And obviously it depends on whether Hazard could continue to maintain some kind of baseline level of play. Obviously he has really nice dynamics down the left-hand side that I don't know exactly how it looks with Vinicius. I do think would be different because Vinicius is not just going to be more of this decoy facilitated player, right? He can do things himself. And so that might just look differently. And I don't know exactly how it would affect the offense because both times we've seen Vinicius in, it was a different game. So I don't hate that idea, but it has to happen with Vinicius having a lot of minutes, I think. If it becomes one where he just has like 10 minutes or something, it's not really going to work. Though at some point, right, like let's say Hazard, like it's just not enough, right? Like he's not being able to contribute within his confined role. We do have to talk about if Vinicius sustains at some level, whether we kind of switch it up. But I don't think it's something that can be answered now. At the present moment, I'm kind of okay with how things are going, but it's something that Ancelotti is going to have to answer. And I think he just needs to monitor it closely and make it like a case by case basis, right? And just go from there. But I was quite happy with, okay, Hazard had some things in the first half. Then we go down, switch it up, right? Be aggressive, right? Use subs early. It's something I think coaches don't do enough. The data backs it up actually as being effective. And I think Vinicius will thrive. It for sure as hell will boost his per 90 stats. And that's good for the agenda. So
I've definitely liked how quickly Carlo has been to pull the trigger and introduce substitutions. That's a change from Zidane. I feel like Zidane was a little bit more hesitant to do that and would wait. And so Carlo's happy to change things up, especially, I mean, he, like you said earlier, he looked pissed. So he wanted things to change. And for now, I think I'm okay if we go again next weekend and go with Hazard, Bale, Benzema. Like, I'm okay with trying to give that a run and trying to see if those guys can all click into gear. And giving Vinicius those 30 to 40 minutes to make the impact in the second half, run at tired legs, and hopefully continue to impress. And if he does do that, like eventually you're knocking down the door. You're gonna have to start, and that's what I see from him, like really knock down the door, make it impossible. I remember there was a point with Fede Valverde and Ferland Mendy where we were like, this young players, this is your message. This is how you get into this team. You knock down the door. You play so well that you're irreplaceable. And so I think it has to get to that point with Vinicius. And so he's getting close after today's performance, but I still want to see it moving forward.
Yeah, I think it's in the hands of Hazard and Vinicius, right? They will decide it, right? If Hazard is able to raise his level and make it so that he has like this huge tactical effect, it'll be difficult for Ancelotti. And the flip side, right? Like if Vinicius just keeps doing this, I mean, Ancelotti, he has shown at the moment no real concern for like status or anything, right? Sure, he's starting the old guys now, but with the aggressiveness of the substitutions, clearly people are getting chances. And so if Vinicius keeps doing this, Ancelotti wants to win, man. That's what the lineup from the first game showed us, where Matt, you said, I've changed my mind, right, about the lineup and stuff. Just basically, Ancelotti is very much in win mode now, which I don't know how much is influenced by the idea that we might get Mbappe before the window closes. Because if he comes, right, I mean, we gotta shoot for titles, right? So if that's the case and Vinicius is able to produce, then yeah, I mean, he's gonna work his way into the team. I think it's up to the players and just keep going, right? Like Hazard should take this as a challenge, and I think Vinicius should see this as an opportunity because after all of the up and downs, this is the best opportunity he's had in a very, very long time, right? If we think about it. And so I just hope it keeps going. I'm not expecting 3 goals per 2 game type ratio, but if we could get somewhere to like 0.3, 0.4 goals per game, which would match his XG numbers, so I don't think it's crazy to ask for that. We're talking about someone who's the second most productive attacker on the team, basically.